I used to live in a quiet cul-de-sac in northern Michigan. Every house looked the same lawn chairs, same mailboxes, same friendly waves. Everyone fit the neighborhood script, except the man across the street. His name was Mr. Harland, but everyone called him Curtains because he never closed his eye. Moved in at 19, staying in a house my family inherited. First night there, I noticed his lights were earned. He was standing in the window, not moving, not shifting, just staring directly at my house. I told myself he was just a strange old man with odd habits, but the next night it was the same thing. Same window, same rigid posture, same blank expression. I never saw him sit, never saw him look away. It got to the point where I avoided looking, but when you feel watched, you can't help checking. And every single time, he was there motionless, like he'd been waiting for me to turn my head. A few weeks later, around 2 a.m., my bedroom suddenly filled with light. My blinds glowed like someone was shining a spotlight inside. I peeked outside. His house wasn't just lit, his lights were brighter than I'd ever seen, almost like studio lights. And he was closer to the glass now, his forehead nearly touching it, eyes wide, unblinking. And he wasn't watching my house anymore, he was staring straight at me. I ducked to the floor, heart pounding like it was breaking my ribs. I lay there for hours, clutching my blanket like a kid hiding from a monster. The next few days, something changed. His curtains were finally closed. For the first time since I moved in, I couldn't see him watching. I actually felt relieved. But 4 nights later, while walking through my living room at midnight, I heard tapping. Not from the door, not from the walls, from glass. Slow, soft, repetitive. It was coming from the side window one no one should reach without stepping into my yard. I crept forward and peeked around the corner. Someone was outside. Him. But seeing him up close was so much worse. His eyes were wide but unfocused, like he wasn't really looking at me more, like looking through me. His mouth hung open, jaw trembling, and he tapped the glass with one bent knuckle, steady and deliberate, like he was measuring the window. I whispered, "What do you want?" He stopped, then he smiled. His teeth were wrong-crooked, gapped, almost rotten. He slowly mouthed something. At first I couldn't tell what it was. Then I realized he was saying my name, my full name. I had never introduced myself to him. My stomach dropped. I backed away fast, and when I flipped on the hallway light, he sprinted into the darkness, sprinting like someone far younger than he looked. I tore the blinds shut and sat awake until sunrise. The next evening, his curtains were open again, but he wasn't there. Instead, something was written on his window, smeared in something dark, sticky, and uneven. Were the words, "I like when you look back." That night, I slept in my closet with the lights on. 2 days later, he vanished. His house went completely dark, curtains open, rooms empty. No moving trucks, no noise, no signs of life. Some neighbors said he wasn't himself lately. Others said they didn't notice anything strange. But I knew better. Weeks passed, then months, and I finally had the courage to check my side yard at night. In the dirt between my window and the fence were deep footprints, the same place he stood tapping, the same spot he whispered my name. The footprints were worn into the soil, packed down in the exact pattern of someone standing there night after night after night. My stomach twisted, but it got worse. Under the window frame, half buried in dead leaves, was a tooth, brown, cracked, unmistakably human. I moved out the next week, and to this day, I still wonder where he went, and how he knew my name. This happened when I lived in a cheap apartment during my sophomore year of college. The walls were thin, the neighbors loud, and the air smelled like old carpet and microwaved noodles. My neighbor across the hall was a quiet man named Elias Smith, 30s, pale, wiry, with dark circles under his eyes. He always wore the same grey hoodie. I barely saw him, but I heard him. Every night around 1 a.m. there was banging. Deep, rhythmic thuds coming from his floor, like someone hammering wood or stomping. I tried not to care. People have their weird hobbies. But one night, I took my trash out around 1:15, and as I stepped into the hallway, I heard something crying. Not just crying, pleading. A woman's voice coming from inside his apartment. I froze. Elias wasn't married, never had guests, never spoke to anyone. The crying got louder. Please, please, let me out. My stomach dropped. I leaned my ear closer to his door, then the crying suddenly stopped, like someone cut the sound off mid-breath. Then I heard footsteps, slow, heavy ones, coming toward the door from the inside. I ran back into my apartment and locked my door. The next morning, I finally worked up the courage to bring it up. I casually asked him how things were, pretending to bump into him at the mailboxes. He smiled, too wide, too forced. Oh, just building stuff. My basement door gets stuck sometimes. Thing is, there were no basements in our building. 0, and I knew he lived alone. That night, around 2 a.m., I heard scraping outside my door. Not footsteps, something dragging. I looked through the peephole and almost screamed. A pale hand, delicate, slender, clearly a woman's, was reaching under his door across the hall, as if trying to escape. Elias suddenly stepped into view and stomped on the hand. Hard, the hand twitched once and went still. He leaned down slowly, grabbed the wrist, and pulled the entire arm back under the door. Like whoever it belonged to was being dragged deeper inside. I shut my lights off, stayed silent, and didn't sleep. The next week was quiet. No thuds, no crying, no scraping. Until one evening, I heard Elias talking softly to someone inside his apartment. His voice was gentle. Don't worry. No one else is going to hear you again. You're staying with me forever. Then came the banging again, faster, harder, desperate, followed by a choking scream. That same night, he knocked on my door. I didn't answer. He knocked again, then whispered through the crack. You hear things, don't you? You shouldn't. I held my breath until he finally walked away. 2 days later, a moving truck came. Elias was gone. Apartment emptied overnight. Management said he left for personal reasons. Months later, before moving out myself, curiosity got the best of me. I asked to see his old unit. The manager laughed and handed me the spare key. I stepped inside. The air was colder, heavier, like it hadn't been opened in years. And then I saw a tear-locked door in the living room wall that wasn't in any other apartment's layout. Scratches covered the bottom half of the door, deep scratches, made from the inside. I put my hand on the knob. It was warm. I left without opening it. Now I live in a different city, different building, different walls. But every once in a while, around 1 a.m., I swear I still hear banging through the floorboards, the same deep, rhythmic thuds, the same desperate force, and every time, I wonder if Elias is really gone. 2 years ago, I moved into a small rental house in Arizona. The property next door had been empty for years, overgrown grass, peeling paint, broken shutters. About a month after I moved in, I woke up at 4 a.m. to a strange feeling. Not a sound, just a feeling. I looked out my bedroom window toward the abandoned house. There was a girl standing in the driveway, tiny, maybe 8 or 9, long dark hair covering her face, barefoot, wearing a dirty white dress. She wasn't moving, just facing my house. I watched her for nearly a full minute before she slowly turned around and walked back into the shadows beside the empty garage. The next morning, I convinced myself it was a dream. But the following week, around the same time, she appeared again. Same spot, same posture. This time, her head tilted slightly like she was listening. I whispered, "Are you okay?" She didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't blink. She just turned slowly and walked back into the darkness. I started sleeping with my blinds closed after that. But every morning, I found small things in my yard. A single marble, a broken hair clip, a tiny shoe print, like she was leaving things for me, or returning things that didn't belong to her. One night, around 3 a.m., I woke to a soft knocking. Not on my door, on my window. I froze. The knocking was slow, deliberate, almost gentle. I lifted the corner of my blinds. The girl's face was right against the glass. Her eyes were huge, glossy, unfocused, like she wasn't fully conscious. Her skin was grayish, bruised-looking. Her mouth hung slightly open. She whispered something I couldn't hear. Her breath fogged the window. Then she pressed her hand against the glass. Dirt under her nails. Deep scratches along her wrist. Something black smeared across her palm. She whispered again, this time louder. "Let me in. You took something." I backed away. She kept whispering the same phrase over and over until dawn made her disappear back toward the empty house. The next day, I cautiously walked over to the abandoned property. The garage door was cracked just enough to peek inside. There were child-sized handprints all over the walls, hundreds of them, overlapping, some fresh, some old, and in the center of the floor was something that made my blood run cold, a pile of random objects. Toys, ribbons, hair ties, bottle caps, tiny shoes. An entire mound of things that clearly belonged to children. I didn't take anything, but suddenly her words made sense. You took something. She didn't mean me specifically. She meant anyone. Anyone who stood too close. Anyone who stepped into her territory. Anyone who looked at her for too long. A few nights later, I woke again to knocking, except this time it wasn't just one voice. There were multiple children whispering outside my walls, all around the house, little nails tapping the siding. Small footsteps pacing back and forth. I didn't sleep until sunrise. I moved out in broad daylight, leaving everything behind except a suitcase. But sometimes, walking to my car at night, I hear a soft voice behind me whisper, "You took something," and I don't turn around, because I know if I do, I'll see her standing there again.